Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Everybody knows about the discussion that Sharpe Sports and I had regarding Quinn Ewers and really what that evolved into around Texas football and college football and everything in general. So, something that started as me being very critical of Sharpe Sports and his take, and Sports Exposed has now become an opportunity to work with somebody who I really like behind the scenes. I've really gotten to know Marcus well over the last couple weeks, and just some great conversation. Somebody who is obviously what you guys saw how he chose to handle it. Very, very humble, amazing human being, and somebody who I plan on working with moving forward, as I think we can really have productive college football discussions and just people that are passionate about the sport. What you guys are going to see here is the third part of the discussion that we had back on August 24th. So that's when we first sat down and got to know each other and really addressed everything man to man. And the third part of this discussion is more so around NIL and the future of college football, more big picture topics. But this is something where I wanted people to see, make sure that this got out of that discussion that we had back on the 24th, but also, just letting you guys know, we can agree and disagree on things in the community, but at the end of the day, we can always find common ground and move forward. And so thankful to Sharpe Sports for having me on his platform. I'm very, very happy to be able to share this content with you guys. So look forward to everybody, hitting that like button and commenting below. And also, quick thank you to our sponsor, busr.com/Fanatic, the official sports book, the official betting partner of Fanatic Perspective, 24-hour service. They are unbelievable. We have NFL coming up right around the corner, but starting off with Bills and Rams. So, and through really Cowboys, Bucks, where I know a lot of people are looking to lay money down there as well. So hit up usr.com if you're looking for that reliable betting partner, as well as all the big college football games. We know we have Texas versus Alabama this weekend. Everybody and their mom's going to be there in Austin. So if you're looking to, take advantage of the juice that's going on, hit up usr.com/Fanatic. Guys, check out the video with us. Let me know how you feel. Remember, horns always up.
All right, so last topic that we're going to go over, because I do genuinely want to always hear perspectives of college football fans about the NIL era that we are in. It is brand new. It is something that we haven't seen. I have very strong opinions about this era that we're in, but I want to hear your opinions first.
So I can tell you have strong opinions. I think of all the things that bothered me, because I was upset. You got me heated. I told you that. But I think the thing that bothered me the most was your criticism of when you got to the NIL, and I said the term pocket watching, and really what that means is for those, I know you know what it means, but in terms of our viewers listening, you don't need to be checking for people's money, assuming that they're not going to do the services rendered or anything like that. That shouldn't affect their performance. Or their reason to or to not do something. That's why I even brought up like Reggie Bush. I know that's may not be taboo, but Reggie Bush, regardless of what he was doing off the field, on Saturday, he was that man, right? Exactly. And every single Saturday, he was that man. Or Friday nights back in the day, Pac-12 after dark. So with NIL, though, getting back on track, at the end of the day, this sport generates so much money. And these young men have so much influence from a culture perspective. Like growing up, what did Michael Vick mean to me? What did Vince Young mean to me? Tim Tebow to some people, Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, Marcus Mariota, Johnny Manziel, right? These are people that were, a part of the culture. Right. And so there's something to be said for that. But I think all NIL does, at least in my opinion, is expose who you already are, which is what money does.
Very true.
And I think that's why we're sitting here talking about, well, there were distractions. Yeah, there were distractions at UT back in the day, but those guys still strived. And so it still comes down to who are you internally and what are you doing with that? I think there's some great NIL stories, and there's some cool things that guys are doing to either share their money or help their families or certain things. But yeah, it can be very exploitive, and I'm not naive to that. Okay. I think that's why I get a little defensive about it, because I do understand, some guys may be delivered to some players. I know if you're a Texas A&M fan watching, you're probably very defensive about how your class came together. Hence Nick Saban versus Jimbo Fisher, right? And where they butted heads. But at the end of the day, that name, image, likeness, that's still my name. That's still who I am, right? Regardless of what school I play for. I think where we're really seeing problems is everything is happening at once. The transfer portal. And when you start combining all of these changes and there's no structure, and the NCAA,
they went from hands on to hands completely off. They said, we're not taking off the training wheels. We're taking off the front wheel too. Learn to do a wheelie.
100%, man. And they know their power is fading. Look, the negotiation with these TV contracts and why is USC going to the Big Ten? Why is Texas and OU going to the SEC? Because the next two changes that are going to come, and it's a question of when, not if, is expansion of playoff expansion, I should say, and super conferences.
Yeah.
Right? But right now we're dealing with transfer portal, NIL, all just a problem. And I think there was a better way, in my opinion, to be, to kind of side with you though. There was a better way to do this a long time ago, and they were too stubborn to look at it because they didn't want to adapt to change. Because one of the problems we have in college football, I love college football. Hopefully people watching this can see that. I'm very passionate. I've always loved college football my entire life, not just Texas football, college football across the board. And the traditions matter, but you also are running a business, like you said, Sharpe Sports, and you got to stay ahead of the trends so that things don't mess up your business. And because college football didn't do a good enough job over the last 20, 30 years of staying ahead of those trends, now it's caught up to them. And so we're trying to force all of this change at once instead of some gradual, a better process that could have happened gradually.
Definitely.
So it's tough.
It is I think you just hit it right on the nail right on the head with it. Just all happened at once and so quickly that honestly one of the solutions that I think could really just help all of college sports is make all these players independent contractors. What if think about it. The MLB has the minors. As a high schooler, you can go straight from high school to a minor league facility that is an affiliate of the major league program. We kind of have that in basketball with the G League, but you're not seeing the top. We've actually seen it a little bit more recently, but you don't see most of the top recruits
it's just
going
now
straight from
starting
high
to
school.
pop.
Yeah, this is the past 1 to 2 years. 99.9% of NFL players went to some form of college football, and that other 0.1 are international players.
Correct.
If you made all of these players independent contractors, where you basically said, hey, we're going to sign you at Texas for 2 years, $50,000 a year. That's going to be your NIL. It would be like the equivalent of your NIL deal, but it's just like a salary. After that, you can hit the transfer portal and you can go to these other places, but you don't have to go to school here. If you want to go to school, we'll set it up so that you could go to school, but you don't have to go to school here. But if you don't go to school, then you have an NFL-like schedule where you're showing up, you're doing what you're there for. You're trying to make it. You're trying to become a pro. While yes, there's always going to be but the value comes from the college education. That's a whole different conversation. I think that if you allowed players to be independent contractors, even if it was only the top 10% of players that did that, and then everybody else just took a little NIL money with the scholarship, I think the overall product would just be so much better. Like, I don't want my quarterback to be studying for biology the night before Bama. I want you in that playbook. I don't need you stressing out about maintaining a 2.0 that in a class that you're, quite frankly, if you're one of these top guys, are not going to translate over to the NFL. Like, I want my guys to be developing, and to me, it's almost like that. Like, how can the NCAA say that they care about the student athlete and they're just allowing kids to just flip flop between schools? We don't talk about do all those credits transfer over effectively? Mm-hmm. Are they even taking the same major when they transfer over? That's where I've never understood the student part of it. It's an athlete that happens to be school aged and is going to this school. I could see that being one of the possible outcomes of this, especially if they don't get a rein on it. Because if you made them independent contractors, then they could have a collective bargaining agreement, and they could have.
They don't want that though.
Oh no, they definitely don't want that.
I mean, remember Northwestern a few years ago with
the NCAA games,
and boom, they got.
As soon as that, they were like, "Whoa, we're done with the games. We've got to cancel that because that's cut." I mean, when you start doing the collective bargaining and they're starting to dip into the TV money, that is where the real money's at. That's where the 9-figure money transactions are going to be. So,
college football profit margins are too big for them to go down that route. But like the people that the people that are at the top, right? Like, I think, we are in a good place. I mean, I personally want the players to be students at the school. I think if we could start going down that path, then, we need to be a little bit more flexible about, leagues where guys have alternatives, or what programs we have. And football's so physical. You only have so many plays, and you know this better than I do. And I mean, my football career got ended real short because of back issues. So I can only imagine. And that's another thing, like medical. There's people that had a surgery at a school, but they didn't do rehab and they transfer. And then the other school's like, well, I don't know if we want to cover that. You never talk about the medical side of things.
There's the college it is so, there's so many layers to it. And going back to what you said, because the NCAA waited so long, it's like we literally went from, if you sign a football, we're taking your scholarship away, to high schools making millions of dollars before ever even signing their letter of intent. Like, there does need to be some mediation between the NCAA, the schools, and the players. There has to be something between.
There does. And like I said, money's only going to expose what is already a problem. So when you look at kids, that's why I got so defensive with Quinn. Because in I would like to believe, I don't know Quinn personally or anything like that, but I would like to believe that he was there to compete and wasn't, expecting to be handed the job because he's making XYZ money. I don't think he should be aware or he should be oblivious to what's happening maybe behind closed doors. Yeah. But, we should all be mindful of that when saying those things about kids. And I really, really appreciate and respect you for acknowledging that, because you're a USC fan. You would feel some type of way if Malachi Nelson showed up and he just signed with Clutch Sports and he wins the job, but then somebody's like, well, he only won it because of Rich Paul and them got involved. You would feel something like, man, no, I won the job, like, bro. Like, I just happened to be signed with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports. Yeah. But those two things, don't have to be, necessarily connected in that regard. So I really appreciate, and respect you for that. I really, really do, man. Thank you.
Definitely. It's tough. Like, especially this year, being able to interact more with the players, like in person, like going to 7-on-7 camps. It's like, you really, like, they're kids. They're like goofy kids. Like, they're just out there. They're doing little touchdown dances. They're doing little TikToks. Like these are kids, and you're putting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in front of them, telling them to be responsible. And, oh yeah, all of a sudden you're going to have thousands of people blowing up all of your social medias for good or for bad. I mean, you go on any one of these kids' Twitter profiles and they post anything, and it's like 40 Oregon things and Texas and like any of the schools that like are in the running for them. It's like, and then you just forget like they're kids. And so I feel like if you had some type of mediation where it's like I do personally believe that there should be caps on certain things. Like it should be kind of like how the NFL has it structured, where it's like, okay, if you're a quarterback and you're this, you can only make this much money. Because I don't want it to start being bidding wars. Like that's not what NIL was supposed to be.
What it already is.
It was supposed to be just like, hey, you're Johnny Manziel, you want to make Money Manziel t-shirts, you can do that. It wasn't supposed to be, we got a booster that's willing to give you $5 million a year to come over here. Like, obviously that's what it was going to be with just how much money was already in there. Like, which would also show how necessary this was. If you can go from nothing to start paying like the whole team, like a $20 million salary for the whole team.
I agree.
Like it's nothing. Let you know they had a little bit of extra money.
It's such a nuanced conversation too, because I think NIL can keep some guys in college longer for your favorite school.
Oh yeah.
Because then you know it's like, hey, I don't gotta go to the league right now. I'm comfortable. You're seeing this already in college basketball big time. And I also think that when I was talking about money exposes people, it's not always the kid. It could be the advisor. It could be the parent. It could be, anybody that's dangling the carrot in front of that player. And once that player doesn't perform, they have some, now it's not supposed to be pay for play. It's not supposed to be, but we know these people are very crafty, and these sharks out here, I've said this on my channel many times, the boosters and the people in charge of these programs are the same people who got to the top of their industries and professions by being sharks. Yeah. Right. And knowing how to skate around the lines. So yeah, kids can definitely be impacted negatively or steered in the wrong direction by these same folks. So it's a balance we have to find for sure.
Definitely. It is going to be interesting. Like I've never been so excited just for the entirety of college football. And the next honestly, in the next 10 years, college football might look completely different than we've ever seen. Like you said, there could be 3 conferences. It could be the SEC, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten, or whichever one wins out. Like you might just get these 32 team conferences where all the teams fall underneath there, and then I don't know. Like they're probably going to start off with. I personally would like to see a 16 playoff. Top 2 get first round bye. Let the bottom 4 play it out to get there. But it's definitely, college football is just changing before our eyes, and I personally like it. It's like I'm here for the ups, the downs, the bumpy ride, the smooth ride. Like I'm just here just to be a fan and just witness it all.
We'll have to make another video about the what we want from the football game too, because part of our college football experience growing up was the NCAA football game on
As soon as that comes out, because I'm tired of these trash Madden games. As soon as the new NCAA comes out, I might have to start a gaming channel. Like I'm about to be.
We better have everybody on YouTube go have a second channel.
Yo, hey, I'm sure that the amount of hours that I put into NCAA 14, I'm on season 2060 from season 2014. Like, yeah, those are the real games.
Sharpe Sports, I tell people all the time, the amount of time I spent on that game before I got to a game. Yeah. Before I, keep in mind the gaming experience, home field advantage, the bands and all that, that's dope. Yep. But recruiting, building the program, position changes, like there was so much.
So, man, I hope that they just do it right, because there's just so much depth that you can do with those games. Gaming, that's a whole different, the state of gaming and whatnot. That's a whole different conversation. But when that game comes out, also seeing how that affects NIL, that's gonna be interesting to see with that too. But just all those things, like college football, I'm overall optimistic. Texas is on the rise, USC's on the rise. Everybody, like, things are shaking up. Like, Alabama is not definitively the best team anymore. They're up there. They're always going to be top 3. But Georgia's right there.
Around.
Like, shoot, there's a lot of moving and shaking going on right now in college sports. But overall, I appreciate the video that you made. I appreciate you reaching out. Like that was a real stand-up move. Honestly, I really do appreciate that. I appreciate you hopping on this call. Everybody, first link in the description. It'll be up in this corner as well. Go subscribe to my guy. If you got to this point of the video, you clearly like with the conversation that we having. So go subscribe to my guy. That is very, very simple. Definitely go do that and hit the notification bell for him too. And turn on all notifications. You got to stay on top of these things. And with that being said, I appreciate you taking the time, Steven.
Thank you, guys. Sharpe Sports, appreciate you. Fanatic Perspective, go subscribe. Appreciate it, man. And let's do it again, man.
Most definitely.